Good day, fellow champions of inclusion. I'm AA Ron, and this is the Inclusive Dad Podcast, where we explore inclusion and make it practical. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join me in exploring ways we can create a more inclusive world together. You are important, you matter, and you can make a difference. Today, my guests are Aimée and Lila. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Why don't you, Aimée, just start off and just tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name is Aimée. This girl here made me a mom 14 years ago. And so we've been on this journey together ever since, just kind of figuring out life and all of the challenges and beauty that come along with having a disability. I work in public relations and communications, and I used to be a journalist. I'm also very passionate about, championing people with disabilities and their rights. So.
Great. Lila, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit or talk a little bit about you?
I'm Lila. I'm a dancer. I'm involved with a group of girls in wheelchairs who dance. And yeah.
14 going 14. On 24.
Yeah.
And do you want to share a little bit about your disability too?
Yeah. I was born with cerebral palsy. So basically when I was born, not enough oxygen got to my brain. And that's why I'm not able to walk, and it kind of affects my right arm as well. My right arm is a little more tense than my left arm, but
yeah. So I have two children. My daughter, Cece, is 22. She has cerebral palsy and uses a wheelchair. So I'm familiar with cerebral palsy. She doctors at Gillette. I'm sure you guys know about Gillette.
Yeah. We'd love to meet her sometime.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you for the introductions. Do you, Aimée, or one of you guys, I guess I don't care really who wants to, but do one of you guys want to go into the story about the school and that situation and kind of why I reached out to you a little more?
Yeah. I can probably start, and then you can fill in whatever I'm leaving out or correct me when I'm wrong, as she often does. Yeah, so we live in Minnesota, and we've had a wonderful public school experience. Our school district has been incredibly supportive. The IEP process, you're kind of prepared to go to battle when you go into those meetings. And I always was prepared, but I never felt ever like it was a battle. We always felt like we were on the same team as the folks in the school district, Team Lila. And it just, I feel like, from Mom's perspective, I just feel like she has been well supported. The teachers in the school and all of the special ed directors, they all see the potential that Lila has, and they have really set her up to be the best version of herself. And that means challenging her too when it calls for it. So Lila is in 8th grade, and we live in this kind of weird pocket of our city where we are assigned to one middle school and then funneled off to a different high school. So most of the kids that go to Lila's middle school go on to one high school, and then there's a small group, she being one of them, that goes to a different high school.
Okay.
We have open enrollment in Minnesota. Of course, unless the school that you're, desiring to open enroll in is at capacity. And I was always kind of thinking that because Lila has an IEP and she uses a power wheelchair, that it wouldn't be an issue to advocate for her attending one of the high schools over the other one in the district. There's actually 3 high schools in our district, but for the purposes of this, I'll talk about the 2 of them. So she's assigned to one school. We want her at the other school for a variety of reasons, which I can get into. And so I, started that process and I wasn't even really sure how to go about that, but first raised it in her IEP meeting, and was told that that's a district decision, but it seemed like a reasonable request. And that was it. And then the next thing that happened, we were contacted by the special education director in the district, and just telling us that Lila did not, the district did not see a need to place Lila at a high school other than her assigned high school. So, and I can kind of get into the reasons why we felt strongly about, and do feel strongly that Lila should be at one of the high schools over the other. I think the biggest one, the one that kind of made the most sense, the one that I, pleaded to the school board on is accessibility. And of course, every public school in the country is ADA compliant, or at least we hope so, right? And so it's not a matter of I'm not saying that the school she's assigned to isn't ADA compliant, but my argument is that Lila has the right to an education in the least restrictive environment. And the school that she's assigned to attend was built in 1924, and has certainly been retrofitted and additions and all kinds of things since then. But the school that we would like her to attend was built in 1996. There's a big difference between being retrofitted for accessibility and being built with accessibility in mind after the ADA went into effect. So, the physical accessibility of the building is a big one.
So, I mean, it sounds like you're saying both of them technically are ADA compliant. Is that correct?
Correct.
Or as far as you know? Okay. I got that. Makes sense.
Yeah.
And then is the high school based on like your physical address? Is that how they do it? Like this address goes to this
Correct.
high school or something? Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha. Awesome. Interesting. So when did you guys start down this path? Was it just this year you started talking about going to the other high school, or how long have you been working on this process of wanting to go to that high school?
I mean, I think it was in December when we had our IEP meeting,
Okay.
is when we first discussed it. So, I kind of made our case for why Lila should go to that school. We got the official no from the district. We went to the school board meeting, and Lila did a beautiful job speaking and advocating for herself. Do you want to talk about how that process was for you?
Yeah, it was definitely scary, like speaking in front of all those like board members, and because I've never done anything like that before. But afterwards I just felt like I felt very proud of myself that I was able to speak up about what I think is right for me.
Yeah. Actually, earlier today, in preparation, I listened to both of your guys' speeches. You guys did a great job. So that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I obviously hope that this ends in our favor. We're still we're still fighting for it.
Right.
And I can share a little bit more about kind of the steps that we have taken. But in the end, if things don't go in our favor, I am so proud that I'm so proud of Lila for putting herself out there and showing up for herself and advocating for, I mean, really, she's the one that, she's really the only one that can say what is best for her future, right? And what she needs. I'm not in a power wheelchair. You know, the school district administrators, they're not in wheelchairs. They don't know what it's like to be in Lila's body and in Lila's mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm very, very, very proud of the fact that at 14 years old, she has the ability to do that, to voice what's right, to voice what she needs. I wish she didn't have to.
Right.
You know, and so that's kind of a hard lesson to learn.
Yeah.
And I think it's also a good wake-up call for me. I mean, of course, like throughout Lila's 14 years, there's been challenges, right? Where like we're, you know, as parents of kids with disabilities, like we're constantly advocating.
Yeah.
But I think this has been a wake-up call for me that it's not always going to go your way.
Yeah.
And when you're up against systems as powerful as public school districts, it's not as simple as just, you know, making an exception.
Right.
There's policies in place, and I mean, there's a whole ton of people that are on our side when it comes to this, and who feel awful, right? Who really feel awful that this is the way that this is going. But there's nothing they can do about it, right? They can't. It's hard to fight against a system with, you know, policies and processes and administrations. So, yeah.
So how do you feel, Lila, about having to, I mean, you said you were scared, I think, going to talk like that. How do you feel about having to advocate for yourself in this way to get what you think is correct? How does that feel to you?
Yeah, kind of similar to what she said. Like, I'm proud of myself that I'm able to speak up and like advocate for myself, but also like I shouldn't have to, and it's frustrating that I need to like it's frustrating that I need to like speak up for myself to like make changes for what I need.
Right. Have you had to like speak up for yourself before and advocate for yourself? Is this like the first time you've really had to do that?
It definitely isn't the first time I've had to speak up for myself. I've had quite a few like ESP changes throughout the years.
ESP is a paraprofessional.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was kind of the one that felt like, okay, this isn't going to be a good fit for me. And then they just kept coming. They just kept, like, it was kind of like a trial and error thing where it was like, it was one after the other. I was like, no, this one's kind of, eh. And so it's definitely been a experience, but yeah, I'm happy with my current ESPs though.
Yeah. Did I hear in your speech or something where you're gonna not have an ESP maybe in high school?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Aaron, Lila has two brothers who are super noisy, and they play hockey in the basement every night, and they crank the music. Can you hear the music?
Not really, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me know if you can, and we can holler at him.
If Lila wants to yell at them, she can. That's okay.
That would be funny. Yeah. She usually just goes and slams her door.
Yeah, I just slam it around. Just like, no.
I mean, I guess I can't really hear it.
Okay.
I think it's okay.
All right.
Yeah, that's no problem. How long have you been going to your IEP meetings, Lila?
I how
Well, how long have you been a part of your IEP meetings?
I can't remember like how many times I've like actually been a part of my IEP meetings, but I know I was a part of like my most recent one. And I just got to, it was kind of like just like surrounding this idea of like the school board situation, and like just I got the chance to speak up for myself, and my principal was there, and my teachers were there, so it was nice to kind of talk to them about it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think so. One big change happened at our last IEP meeting. It was the first IEP meeting that we have had that Lila has actually attended.
Okay.
And one of the big change was that the school felt like Lila was being overserviced. So at the beginning of the year, Lila had a 1-to-1 ESP throughout her day. So all day from arrival to departure. And some of her teachers felt like she doesn't need that anymore, right? Like she needs somebody there to help her with her materials and get things out of her backpack for her core classes.
And I have friends who do that too.
Right.
Like I don't need like all of this extra, and I feel like I don't know if you're gonna get to that, but another reason that they thought that I should get less ESP support was because like it made my peers a little like too like they didn't want to like interact with me that much because like my pair was always around.
Yeah, and what 8th grader wants to like, be around adults? Yeah, so that there was a couple of reasons why, and we supported that, right? Like I asked Lila, I'm like, is that something that you're comfortable with? And she said yes. So the thing is that Lila has built this incredible support system of peers during middle school. And that's another one of the reasons why we feel it is so important for her to continue going to school with that support system. Because otherwise she's starting all over with a whole new set of students at this the high school where she's assigned to attend. I mean, there will be a few, but like her core support system, the kids that just intuitively know Lila. Which actually, I think you should share a little bit about the kind of special connections that you've built at school and why that matters to your independence.
I've got some pretty good friends. Like it's gotten to a point where like help from them has just become like a routine. Like they automatically know like what I need help with and like when I need it. I have one friend who when I get to one of my classes, my ESP isn't there right away. So my friend comes and automatically just gets my stuff out of my backpack. And she sits right next to me as well. So I feel like seating arrangements is also like a really important thing because like if I'm not sitting next to someone who's like I don't know very well, then it's kind of like this is but yeah, and I also have a lot of anxiety, so like they're also really good at like being and like being my literal like support system and like
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, Lila, she struggles with anxiety and sensory issues. And so there's times where just the environment can be too much, especially with, chaotic middle schoolers. And she's got these people around her, these kids that just, they've gotten to know her so well that they just intuitively sense when she is feeling overwhelmed. One of them will reach over and hold her hand. One of them will just kind of quietly whisper in her ear, "Hey, do you want to take a walk?" And they'll just go and take a quick lap around the school to kind of recenter. And so if the district is advocating for Lila to have more independence and less time with an adult paraprofessional, which we are supportive by all means, but I think that to take away that adult support and the peer support that she's worked so hard to build would be devastating.
Mm-hmm.
It would set Lila back in terms of her education journey in high school. Yeah. And she has so much potential. And she spends so much energy just being, right? Just navigating her day. And so as her mother, my goal is to make sure that she has access, and I'll say it again, to the least restrictive environment possible. Mm-hmm. She has that legal right.
Yeah. I'm looking at your Facebook page where you stated the reasons the district denied her going to that high school. Are you okay if I read them?
Sure.
Okay. So you posted, hold on. Was it the day after you guys did your speeches
It was like a week.
I can't remember. I mean, there was a conversation that I had about why they were going to deny it, and then we got the official written
I got you.
denial.
So you posted, the district denied the request stating, first, Lila's needs can be met at Osseo High School.
Yep.
Secondly, both schools provide the same wheelchair accessibility requirements.
Yep.
There's two more, which I've read them multiple times and I still shake my head. So the next one is, allowing Lila an exception would be a proclamation that Osseo isn't wheelchair accessible when it is. And the last one is, allowing an exception is unfair to other students in the district who don't have parents with the means to advocate for them.
Yeah.
The last two unfortunately, I'm not completely surprised. I've been in situations myself where the district has given me similar reasons for not doing stuff for my daughter, and enough other people in similar situations where, I shouldn't be surprised anymore. It's still, those reasons are just, in my opinion, ridiculous. If I can use that word, it just shakes my head.
Yeah.
Well, and special education by its very design is individualized. So I'm not sure why other students in the district have any weight on what is best for her.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Those are crazy reasons. Maybe, do you guys want to talk about it looked like you were going to request another IEP meeting, or where is this process at now?
We did. We met almost 2 weeks ago now. I called an emergency IEP meeting. So, once we got the denial from the district, I just started having conversations with people. I've never been in a situation like this before. Yep. We kind of didn't know what to do. So I just started talking to people. I spoke with an advocate at Pacer. I spoke with somebody in legal from the Department of Education, several other people. I reached out to our state representative,
Principal of Maple.
Yeah, I mean, I was just really kind of like throwing spaghetti at the wall at that point. And I think what I learned is that the fastest, straightest route to getting a resolution to this would be revising her IEP, knowing what we know now. Because remember when we met in December for her IEP meeting, we did not know that this was going to be the fight that it is.
Right.
Had we known, right? And again, as I said at the start of this conversation, our IEP processes have been pretty straightforward and easy. Like there's never been a time where I've had to, go to mediation or anything of the sort. So this was all kind of new territory for me. What was I going to say? So called the emergency IEP meeting and followed up in writing with an email to some of the things that, because then I went, did a whole bunch of other research about why one school, because you can't, in an IEP, you can't, school placement doesn't go on an IEP, right? That is a district decision. But you can put accommodations in an IEP that would make it so that the district has no choice but to place her at one location or another. So, and I can kind of go through like what some of those accommodations are. And I mean, I will be very honest, I haven't heard back from the district yet. Some of them could be like completely ridiculous, and maybe they would say like, we will never put that in an IEP. But we gave it our very best shot, and I don't know, we'll see what happens.
So you had the IEP meeting and they haven't given you like a prior written notice like on what their decision was following that meeting? Is that what you're saying? Okay. Correct. So you're still waiting to hear back. Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Aren't IEPs fun when stuff is not going well?
Yeah, I mean, they are, I don't know how they're a pain in the butt at times, like, getting what you need in there. But, now we're faced with a decision where, the federal government is making decisions that could impact these kinds of things, and actually could impact our very situation. Right.
Right. Yep.
What even happens if I go to like the Office of Civil Rights and try to file a complaint?
Yep.
Our options are now different than they were a month ago.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of things. I mean, myself as a parent with a child on an IEP, I mean, there are times you have to decide, where do I want to spend my energy? I mean, if there's a lot of things you want to get fixed, and like what's the most important, and coming to peace with that and figuring out what your next steps are. So it can be very draining for sure. And you guys seem to have an overall positive attitude, it seems like, on the situation. I mean, it's way
and I mean, this is her journey, this is her life. I am here to support the path that Lila wants to take. And so as we've gone through this process, there's been multiple check-ins where and probably to an annoying level, where I'm like, you sure you want to keep doing this? Or, we've gone through, do you want to leave the district? Are you okay with going to the high school? Like, is this worth it?
Yep.
And at the end of the day, you feel like it's worth it to keep fighting, and not just for you, but I think Lila is one of the most empathetic people I know. And Lila in her heart knows that this is ridiculous. It's wrong. It's just the decision, could very easily make, do the right thing. It's about doing the right thing.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So I got a couple of questions I ask all my guests, so I don't know who wants to answer this one, or you both can, or you guys can decide, but what is your definition of inclusion?
For me, personally, like, my definition of inclusion is like, during activities, like especially at school, just like if you see someone that's kind of like looking a little like, like lost, or like, I don't know, maybe like they don't know what to do, maybe just ask them like, hey, do you want to like join, or do you want to like try this, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Love that.
And if I could take a little bit of a different approach to the question, I'll answer it maybe not so much like what's the definition of inclusion, but how do you achieve inclusion? And I just want for anybody listening to hear that it is so important that when you are trying to create inclusive spaces and programs, that you must include the people in the planning process, and not at the end, from the very beginning, right?
Yeah.
So it's sort of like you don't do things to disabled people to include them. You do things with disabled people to include them. And I think that is really, really important, not just for people with disabilities, but for any marginalized community, right? Where, having a seat at the table is the ultimate goal. There should not be, a bunch of people sitting around a table making decisions about what is best for a particular group of people who is not represented at that table.
Yeah. That's a great point. I think there's a phrase I've heard, nothing about us without us, is a phrase I've heard before. And I'm currently on an accessibility committee for a local arts organization in Austin, and I brought that up. I mean, I'm there representing like my point of view as a parent of somebody with a disability, but we also need to have people with disabilities there. Mm-hmm. They're the ones that are going to be, it's going to affect more than me. We need to try to find people. So it's a very important point.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, since we're on the topic of schools, one of the most egregious examples of, trying to create inclusive spaces, but not bothering to ask the people with disabilities is inclusive playgrounds.
Yeah, right.
Where, schools are doing a ribbon cutting and having, the news stations out to celebrate their inclusive playground, and it's covered in wood chips.
Right.
Yeah. You clearly didn't engage people with disabilities.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Yeah. The other thing about the playground thing that it's come to my mind a couple of times is every time I see a news story about a community wanting to get an accessible playground, it's always like the parents and the community having to raise the money to build this playground. And I was like, why is this? It's at a school. Like, why are there not funds they put the playground in originally? Why aren't there funds to make it accessible? Why do parents have to sell stuff or raise money in the community to make it accessible? That's my question.
You're right.
Yeah, for sure. Another question I always ask my guests is, what is one thing that the listeners can start doing today to be inclusive? So just something simple that you or I could just start doing today to be more inclusive.
Kind of similar to my answer to the last question. I would just something that's helpful for me is people who, like, if we're doing an activity that's not quite accessible for me, is people who come up to me and ask me, like, okay, like, what do you think is the best way for you to do this? Or, like, give, like, I don't know, like, give options, like, how about we try this? Or, like, if that doesn't work, then like, try this. Or, but yeah, that's happened to me a few times, and I find it helpful because then it helps me know, like, for, like, in the future, it helps me know, like, what is most helpful for me.
I love that.
Yeah, well said. And I guess just from the parents' perspective, boy, so many things. I think I've gotten pretty good about, like, asking for what we need, but it was not always that way. And when you are a parent, a new parent of a child with a disability, it is a whole new world, and there's not a playbook for how to navigate different situations, in particular social situations. It can be very scary. And so I guess my advice is, if you know somebody that attends your school, or goes to your church, or lives in the neighborhood, and they are disabled, or they have, a child with a disability, don't be afraid to reach out and say, hey, my kid's having a birthday party and we would love for Lila to attend.
Right.
How would that work? How could that work? What can we do to make that work? Right. We don't expect people to, go too far out of their way, but even just reaching out to me and say, and I know that can be scary too, right? Yeah. But hear it from me. I love it when people ask me. And sometimes, like, Lila's 14. This is just our life. We kind of forget that Lila is, other than we forget that when we go to friends' houses, that I might want to, or a restaurant, that I might want to call and make sure that, like, and so it's always appreciated if a friend reaches out and says, hey, we'd love to have you guys for dinner. We have 3 steps getting into our house. How can we include Lila?
And I've got some friends who kind of ask me that as well. They're kind of like, hey, like maybe for future, like, if you ever want to come over to my house, like, me and my parents are trying to figure out a way to, like, make it accessible for you, so you can, like, come over. Or, like, I a couple of days ago, I was kind of on the other end of that situation, because I have a friend who recently, like, kind of got, like, an injury with her leg, and I've seen her, like, around school in a wheelchair, and I decided to invite her to a Valentine's Day party, and I just asked her, like, I know it might be difficult, but my house is accessible, so, like, if you want to come.
Is she coming?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. She hasn't said anything yet,
but how awesome is that? I mean, kids, like, we're going to be okay, right? Like, if you're freaking out about the state of the world right now, like, the kids are awesome.
Yep.
We are going to be okay. They are exposed to way more people with differences than you and I ever were growing up.
Yeah, for sure.
And they're the ones thinking about like, hey, I would like to hang out with Lila. How would we make that work? It's not usually the parents. There's a few that have, but it's the kids thinking about these things.
For sure. That's great. Is there anything else you guys want to share before we are done? We covered a lot of stuff.
Yeah, sorry. I'm a talker. I know. Hopefully we didn't make your podcast too long.
No, it's all good. If there's nothing I got, you guys ready for the last question? I want you both to answer it. You ready?
Yeah.
Do you guys like Spam lunch meat? Yes or no?
Yes, but it's a caveat. There's a caveat.
Oh my. Okay. Okay.
He lives in the home of Spam. Yeah.
Yep.
I when I was a reporter, I wrote a story about a couple that got married at the Spam Museum, and they came all the way over from England to do so.
Yep.
So, do you like Spam?
Have I had Spam?
I don't know.
I don't know if I've even had Spam. Well, I'll try it, and I'll report back.
We got to line up a time where you guys can come down to visit, meet my daughter, and go to the Spam Museum.
Yeah.
We would love to. I enjoy Spam on an egg sandwich.
Okay. They pass out Spamples, which is just a little chunk of Spam with a pretzel stuck in it, and you can try it right there. So
she would like it. It's like super salty, ham kind of like ham loaf.
And they have a gift shop with all kinds of crazy Spam socks and shirts and weird stuff.
Awesome.
Well, thank both of you for being on the show today. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
To those listening, thank you for allowing me to be part of your journey. It is truly an honor. Please join the podcast newsletter by clicking on the link in the episode description to keep up with the latest episodes. Together, we can make the world more inclusive. Until next time, stay empowered and be a champion for inclusion.